Hi, hello everyone. This is going to be my review for Until Dawn. So I actually just did my review for Sinners. I saw both movies on the same day, back to back, by complete accident. I saw the first movie, and after I saw Sinners, then I looked up and I saw the sign for Until Dawn. I was like, Until Dawn? I didn't know that movie came out. So I was actually gonna sneak into the movie to see it because I was right there. I'm like, I don't have to pass the reception stand. I don't have to talk to anybody. I could just pop in and out real quick, you know. Well, I decided to go call my cousin to come join me. I was like, man, I gotta go see if I can call her. So I was like, let me go call her. So I went out and called her, and she said no. I was like, okay. So then I tried to get back in, but then the original manager that I bought the ticket from was there. And I was like, oh man, well, maybe I could still. So anyway, went back there, um, got me some refill of popcorn, and then got me my drink. And then I was like, I'll be all right. So then I went ahead and went back and bought the ticket. Which I was probably going to do that to begin with. I don't. So anyway, I got the ticket, and yeah, I went and got my refill of soda, and some glop came out, weird paper stuff. So I went back up to the counter and I was like, "Hey, what is this?" And I was like, "This fell out of your machine, so I don't know if this is like poisonous or or an alien or something. Might possess somebody." And so she grabbed it and was moving it around, and she was like, "Oh, I think it's just sugar that didn't mix very well." I was like, "Okay." So she was like, "Yeah." So anyway, so went in the back and sat down. It was me and this other couple, just the three of us. The dude was like, "Oh, sit anywhere," because all the seats are assigned. And the wife was like, "It's so hard to find seating in here, isn't it?" And we just start laughing. So I take the balcony seat, sit down, and I watch the movie. As soon as I start watching the movie, I think the cast is very awkward. They did a good job just introducing them. But then the movie happened very fast paced at the very beginning, which felt weird, felt odd. I like how the characters split up at the very beginning once they get to the house. I love that detail because that was a very important detail from the first video game. I think there was only maybe twice that all the characters were actually together, maybe three times that all the characters were actually together in the same room in the video game. So I liked how at the beginning when everything started and Until Dawn, all the characters kind of started off together, but then quickly they branched out and everything happened. Um, so yeah, the movie ended up being a lot better than I thought it was going to be. The cast, you grow with the cast as the movie continues on, which I appreciated that. And this other movie called Abigail that came out this last year, um, the cast is introduced, and you really have fun with the cast members, and you just get to know everybody at the in the beginning, and you get to bond with everybody, and then everything starts to happen, and and it's like, oh, okay, the movie's happening now. But in this one, when things are happening, that's when you get to know the characters. So I did notice that. I appreciated that. So I don't know. Forgive me if this isn't right, but I believe that the same writers of the game were the writers for this movie. I think, and I do think that one of the pictures of the missing people was one of the writers, from what I understand. But yeah, I would think believe so. And you'll see this missing person like four times throughout the movie, including the end credits. His picture really stands out. Um, I did notice the guy at the gas station was the therapist. It took me a minute before I picked it up, but I saw that. I also noticed that this movie being a PlayStation movie that had like a cinematic intro, and I saw Kratos and I saw Ellie and The Last of Us, and um, yeah, I thought that was neat. Thought that was interesting. Anyway, so that happens. The movie got pretty good. It starts off, and when all the characters die and they end up coming back, it's like, oh, okay. So right after they get killed the first time, the second time, or yeah, after the first time, then you start to like have this adventure with the characters. So I do appreciate the fact that they kept that element that you are going through this journey with the characters and you being audience members, you're learning with them, and it really felt like being a part of the crew, of the cast, and really, are just like looking upon them and just watching this whole thing, and it felt, nice to not be like, oh, they're stupid for this, and so they did take advantage of this idea of, every time they die they come back and they try again, and they did take advantage of that video game idea, the concept, and I appreciated that. um there was one part in the middle. Oh, okay. So, in case anyone did watch this movie, Megan, the empathic girl, what was she? What was her whole deal? So when they were at the gas station, she is able to tap into residual energy left behind by Clover's sister, and by tapping into that energy, she was able to kind of bring in the that same energy that her sister was maybe stuck in or trapped in. Um, for empathic people, transparent people, it seems very, it seems very normal or natural. But what they don't understand is when she was like, let's gather hands, and let's hack into her energy, your sister's energy." Well, when she hacked into her sister's energy, she basically hacked into the where her energy was linked to, the realm that her sister's energy was linked to. So when that happened and they drove out in the rain, they ended up getting into that barrier, and they drove into that barrier, and that's how they got stuck there. Also, in the second time that they all died, Megan, being the empath, is why her body reacted the way that it did, and why she was the first one to kind of, be possessed in such a way, and why all the missing people's souls and their voices are being channeled through Megan, because she was very empathic and she was able to connect with all of them. Um, so yeah, so she was very in tune with what was going on. So that's why she was having a stronger physical reaction. Um, so let's see what else. So yeah, the movie was good. The movie keeps going. At one point, the therapist is there. I don't remember which one it was, which cycle. But at one point, the therapist is there, and Clover's like, "Oh, everyone went into the bathroom, and they were just like, let's just wait out the night, and not do anything." And they tried to do that, and then they ended up all dying. And then the therapist was like, "Oh no, you can't just win by standing there not doing anything." And she's like, "What?" And then she ends up, blowing up and everything. But that was interesting. And one of the last nights that they were there is when um, Clover ends up having a memory with her sister. And during this memory with her sister, they're in the house, and her sister's like, "Oh, I know what happened with her mom and everything, and I'm trying to move on." And Clover's like, "No," and her sister's like, "I tried to tell you, just come with me to New York. We just got to get out of this house. We got to go." And Clover's like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want you to leave me. I don't want to go." And then she walks out the door, and Clover chases her, and then the creature comes out and attacks her, and she wakes up. So that was like a different memory sort of type thing. This happened on the last day, which was day 13, or yeah, the last day, or 14, or so something like that. And they were saying that no one's name went past that 14, I believe. So they were saying, "Oh man, this might be our last time, last chance." So Clover was saying it means more when you don't have another chance left. And so, they go through the whole thing, and every night that they try to survive, a different thing happens. So they have to figure out how to survive a different night, and there's always a different thing that it happens. So this last time they didn't know what was going on, but they had to go for it. I guess the last few things I can say about the movie was okay. Did Clover's sister make it? I guess I can mention that one. Clover's sister did make it. Clover. So the longer that they stayed there, and the more that they died, the more they ended up becoming something that they didn't like. The more they were starting to mutate and change, and that's what happened to everyone else. So when they got to that certain time and date, or almost there for 2 weeks, and they end up getting to that point, they got to the pinnacle point, basically the very top of the mountain. And once you get there, that's called the cross. You're right at a crossroad. So once you're at that crossroad, you're going to be put in a position or situation where you have to break this cycle. And sometimes, so anyway, so at that point they're at a point where now it was easier to break the cycle. So that at that point, all of the creatures, all the entities, all of the things were right there. Oops, sorry, we're all right there on the last day. So now this was the point that they had to break. It was important that they broke it at the pinnacle time, or the dawn, I guess. The twilight, I guess, is what they'll call it. They go, and so then they do their thing, and then they have to try and figure out how to break the cycle, and and oh yeah. So when they were there, and it showed Clover's sister, Clover's sister attacks her, and Clover's like, "Wait a minute, sister, I love you," and her sister stops, and then Clover pushes her onto the thing, and she says, "I love you," and then she ends up dying. She reconnected Clover reconnected her sister with her light. So when Clover's sister's soul hit the light, which was their love, then she was able to kind of snap back into the body, into the physical body of the creature. So when that happened and Clover killed the creature, she was able to kill um, the the influence. Basically the thing that was trapping her soul there. So by doing that, it allowed her soul to be free and escape. Um, yeah, that's and I actually didn't talk about that when I did Sinners, because that's some dark stuff to get into. The Evil Dead was kind of there, which was being possessed by something. Once you're possessed by something, and then it dies when you're possessed. However, it swapped whatever entities end up swapping souls and body. Once the body dies and the soul's disconnected, wherever the soul was that got swapped out, it ends up being stuck there, in a way, in a sense. And I don't want to make that black and white. So in this movie, that scene was important because Clover reconnected her sister into her physical body, and once they were together, then by killing the body, the soul's able to move on peacefully away from the body since the possession was over. So that's all. If in case anyone was wondering about that, um, that happened. Um, okay, yeah. The second to the third thing I could say was the psychology. I did pick up early on that each entity that they were fighting was actually just a subconscious representation of something, like the old woman who was on the oxygen tank and she was breathing and watching the news and she was dying of illness. I did pick up that she represented lost opportunities, people not wanting to live their life, and they just sit at home and don't do anything with themselves, and they just don't want to live, and they just sit there and slowly wither away. And I did pick up that the masks, the dude with the mask and the jumpsuit, He was just, a strong obstacle, that seems too much to overcome. I just noticed how I noticed those two things, and then I noticed the third one, which was the water. And when they drank the water, and whenever they did a full self expression, they would blow up. And I did pick up on that too, which was one's feeling of repressing themselves, but the moment they do self expression, it becomes a self destructive thing. So I did pick up on those three psychological things, and then at the end of the movie, they explained that that's what those were. So I was like, okay, okay. So I thought it was just me kind of picking apart stuff. Um, the last thing I can say, the positive message and theme of this movie that I picked up, the thing that these characters needed to understand and learn was that you can't just stand still in your life and do nothing. They were trying to run away from something, or they were staying where they were at. And by staying where they were at, they were killing themselves slowly. And by doing that, they were slowly losing pieces of themselves and turning into something that they hated or didn't want to become. They were slowly becoming these monsters. And if anyone has been through an abusive situation, you know what that's like. When you have this light and you have this love inside of you, and then something bad happens in your past, and you end up following that past, and then you get stuck in the cycle of what that past represents. And then the longer you sit there, then the more you start to mold and become that very monster that destroyed you, or you become something that just doesn't represent your higher version of yourself or your higher light. And sometimes you wonder, like, what am I becoming? Why am I becoming this person? So that was a message of the movie is, when we're in these situations and we just stay there and, we just let it consume us slowly and things like that. So these characters had to learn the value of running towards something, not running away from something, not running away from whatever, or not staying where you're at. Um, but understanding that you survive or you become the knight, and that means you got to keep moving forward. Things may be hard, things may be difficult, but you have to find the strength to keep going toward something, go toward a direction. Um, the characters go through like a symbolism of hell, underground and everything, the darkness, the shadow realm. And then what happens is they break out, and as they break out of the ground, and she crawls out and everything, she crawls out of like this grave or whatever. When there's like a cross there, so as she crawls out, she has this new understanding of she wants to move towards something. And you really see that in the line that Clover says when she fights her sister and ends up killing the demon sister, and she's like, I love you, sister, but I have to get out of here. And she runs away, and that was her turning her back on the shadow, that kind of, that shadow figure that represented her sister missing. She was like, I can't keep chasing my past and chasing these demons of the past. I love you, but I have to move on with life. So when she has this new understanding of moving towards something in life, she ends up crawling out of this grave, and there's a cross there, and the cross and that represents her being reborn or rebirthed from being in through hell. So characters come out and have that new understanding, and then she comes out of the grave, and they hop in the truck and they just leave right away. And you see as the truck is leaving, the camera kind of goes at an angle, and you can see how the cross follows the truck, representing that when you have this revelation that you want to move towards something in life, and you don't want to stay where you're at, and you don't want to avoid anything, but you want to go towards something with your life and live and really live in light. Then as you start to move on, then you will have God, and you know, you'll have God and Jesus behind you, always watching your back and always watching you, always being there with you. and no matter where you go, you'll always have God watching over you. You know, so that was like the symbolism there at the end of the movie, which was having that revelation of I want to do something with my life and go in this direction, and God will have your back. Um, so yeah, that was my review for Until Dawn. Thank you for listening. And you have a great day.